Hi everybody, I'm Joey. Well, today in this video I'll be making this kind of Gothic style bench seat. It's made out of solid French oak and the panels veneered MDF. It's not quite finished, well, in that it doesn't have the finishing on it. I'll explain that a little bit later, but anyway, hope you enjoy the build. See ya. Right, well, I've already dressed all the timber up, most of it, so I'm getting straight into cutting the back legs and making the leg assemblies. And just use my bandsaw to rough out the shape of the back. I think I used an 8-degree back pitch. And I could clean up the bandsaw marks with the hand plane. And then cut out the other pieces for the legs, the front leg and I guess the top rail and the bottom rail. And then I could just cut all the tenons on my router table. And then I could cut the groove for the veneered panel. I'm using a 7mm MDF panel. I'm using MDF because it's nice and stable and will be perfectly good for this purpose. Oh yeah, so I ran out of large dominoes right when I needed to do this glue up, so I just used 4 smaller ones there. And I can't see there being a problem with that. And then I could put the stopped arras on pretty much all of the corners. And the easiest way I found was just to measure from each end where I wanted the arras to stop, and just use my eye to stop routing at that point. So next was getting the 2 long rails ready. These 2 long rails are going to go at just underneath the seat. And they're really the 1 or 2 pieces that hold the whole seat together. So I'm joining them to the end seat frames via a kind of a sliding dovetail vertically. So once I cut the actual dovetail on each end of the rail, I could kind of balance the seats in place and scribe the shape of the mortise. And then when the middle seat frame intersects the long rails in the middle, just using a simple halving joint. And then it was on to all the other tenons for all the other rails between the seat frames. And some more arrasing of edges and kind of general cleanup of all the rails. So there was 16 of these mortises to cut, and actually it went pretty quick. Probably only spent 5 minutes on each one. And the center divider kind of rail on the backrest, I just ended up using a 10mm domino. And then I could groove the back rails for the paneling. And using a custom jig so it would fit a custom fence, so I could actually get it in there. We cut the grooves for the same paneling in the seat frames. So I just finished routing all these grooves in the seat frames. I was just about to start getting ready to glue up, and I had a funny feeling the whole time I was routing these that something just wasn't right. And I thought, no, I've got it right, but no, I didn't have it right. Gonna stuff things up. As you can see, this groove is in the wrong place. It needs to be over here by 11 mil out. So that's a cock up. Now unfortunately I can't get a really good grain match with this little patch. Well, I can get a pretty good grain match, but the problem is the grain is actually going off on an angle up here somewhere because of the cutting out the shape of the leg. So while I can put a quarter sawn piece back in here, the actual grain match direction won't be super good. But I can only do what I can only do. And then the glue up. I'm using epoxy, it's CRC, they market it as builder's glue, and it's nice and thick, really good, has a pretty long open time before it starts tacking up, but even then it takes quite a long time to actually set firm. I'm using epoxy because, well, chairs get pretty abused, and bench seats especially if it gets loaded up with people, so I don't want it to come apart when it's racked and people swing on it kind of side to side, so hopefully that's going to help. Once that was dry, I could add the little feet pads, just an extra piece of decoration really. And I could mark and cut out a notch for the center seat frame. And arris the edges of the seat. Added these large domino mortises before we did the glue up. And that's for my seat buttons. So we're at the end. It's not quite finished. The client is currently away on holiday, is back sometime soon. So I thought I'd just put the video out at this point because I'm making another piece for them as well, which if you're following my Instagram, you would have been seeing the armoire that is currently under construction. So the same client is not sure if these are going to be the natural timber or have a dark stain on them, or one of them is going to be stained and this one's going to stay. So what I'll probably do is put another video out showing the armoire build, and then possibly a third video showing the finishing and the final kind of resting places of these pieces. So until then, I'll see you on the next one.